just happened today, October 25th, 2022. You're absolutely not going to believe what I'm about to tell you, and I hope you'll go back and watch some of the videos I just recently did, especially the one where I talked about King Charles III and the royal cipher being the king's mark that has his name, title, and number on it. And so much in those videos that lead up to this. And this is going to be another eye-opening video that's going to blow you away. Even though a lot of different articles are in the news about what's going on, being able to discern and put the pieces of the puzzle together is something that is very helpful for the Lord to do by His power of His Spirit and to show what's coming in the future. Now, I just had talked about that Queen Elizabeth II took the oath when she was anointed with the holy royal oil to be the defender of the Christian faith of the Protestant Church of England. And this is the oath she took to uphold the gospel of Jesus Christ and to be the one monarch in all the world that is defender of the Protestant Church. So now we know that King Charles III had said that although he would uphold being the defender of the Church of England, the Church of Scotland, he would also be defender of all faiths. And I told you that this would be a departure from the monarchy's long-held oath. If he takes this oath to uphold all these religions that have all these false gods and brings in the one world government, the one world religion, which we already know is being set up by partially by the Pope, and the UAE buildings that have the mosque, the synagogue, and the Roman Catholic Church all together, and recently their declaration of Islam as the one world religion that's going to be out of the UAE, and all of that coming together. Now, they had said that the climate change, which I told you is the 666 of the carbon, and that being embedded in the king's crown that I saw in my dream, and that the cipher, the royal cipher of the king, is 0, which is what they want you to get down to with the climate change agenda, to make your carbon footprint down to 0. So the royal cipher is also a hidden code, and that 666 is like the hidden code that's in the king's cipher. I told you that this situation with him changing from being defender of the faith solely as the one leader in the whole world that upholds the gospel of Jesus Christ, and changing from that to having all the religions being defender of all of that, would be the great apostasy. And especially if they force everybody into the one world religion that they plan to bring in under the climate change agenda. They're going to utilize, and they already are doing this with some of the priests in some of the countries, they're bringing them in and making them learn to comply with the climate change agenda. So they're incorporating the one world religion with the climate change agenda and forcing the farmers to do certain things. Now, that also has to do with the fact that they've raised all the prices of the food and the beef in particular because of the cows emitting what they say is, too much carbon in the air, and they don't want people to eat meat They don't want people to eat beef in particular, so they've hiked up the prices so you can't afford it, and reducing the ability for people to have it, to eat. And so with this in mind, keep all of these things in mind, because what happened today, and you can't tell me that this wasn't already pre-planned. Now, Liz Truss was appointed as the Prime Minister of the UK, and then 2 days later the Queen died. Now suddenly Liz Truss has resigned, and now King Charles III has appointed the very first Hindu Prime Minister. And what does this do for the UK, which is under the umbrella of Christianity and being the defender of the gospel? You cannot combine the two. And this is really a show of that great apostasy that's soon coming, that's going to draw people away from the one true God and Jesus as the Messiah, the Savior of the world. So let me get into this and show you what the Lord's been unveiling about this that's just kind of blowing my mind. I wanted to also tell you that in one of the prior videos that I was revealing how the Lord had shown me through Scripture that Jerusalem and the sons and daughters of Zion, and especially the ancient monarchy of Israel, had played the harlot against God, and they were raised on wearing scarlet. Now, she is the woman in Revelation riding the beast, and the beast is, of course, the golden calf in the wilderness was a beast of burden. And in Daniel 7, it declares from Daniel that a beast is a king. And you have to remember that a beast is a king. So when we have the two beasts in the book of Revelation, the first beast is a monarchy that had the deadly wound by a sword and yet lived. So now that is when King Zedekiah's eyes were put out. That was the end of the monarchy, and God brought a sword against one of the heads, which the king is the head of state, and that deadly wound is healed when Israel becomes a nation again, and then they make preparations. After Jerusalem is declared the capital of Israel, the next step is going to be approximately at the same time or thereabouts the restoration of their ancient monarchy. That's going to be the head wound that had the wound by a sword and yet lived. And this king, in the time of Jacob's trouble, is going to be anointed. And as I told you, King Charles III was circumcised by a rabbi in 1948. He just happened to be born exactly when Israel was revived and made into a nation again the same year he was born. So this is the generation that will not pass away until all the things of the prophecy will be fulfilled that pertain to the time of Jacob's trouble and the return of Jesus Christ. Not only does Daniel say that there were 4 beasts, and these 4 beasts were 4 kings, but it also pertains to the kingdom that they rule. So what you're going to have is a future monarchy of an earthly king that's anointed to uphold the word of God. But then you've got the one world religion that's going to come into play. The Jews are wanting to bring the 70 nations and bring all the religions there to make that third temple a house of prayer for all nations. And that's what they're attempting to do. And they want the Sanhedrin to be the supreme court. And I have actually touched the blueprints of that Sanhedrin building when one of the rabbis came here and displayed and showed the video of the Sanhedrin building that will somewhere on the Temple Mount be a part of the wing of the temple. And that is going to come into play, I believe, when they set up the abomination of desolation. As you know, they've already anointed the altar. They've already offered lambs during Passover on that altar, consecrated it to God, and they've been doing the sacrifices, which they call offerings. They don't call it sacrifices because it's an offering to God. They've also made all of the priestly garments, including the high priest garment with the special techelet blue and purple and scarlet, with the crimson worm, the Toliat Shani, which I've talked about in the past in videos. And all of this is coming together with the fact that they've been training these yeshiva boys to do the priestly duties, and they're all trained. They've got the harp makers made the harps, and they've got the utensils and the pans and the laver and the menorah. They've got everything ready to go. So because of the fact that King Charles III is going to sit on the throne chair that has the stone of Scone from Edinburgh Castle that all the kings of Scotland were coronated upon, and this was said to have been brought over and was Jacob's pillow stone from Israel, and he's going to sit upon that chair that has a special slot with that stone and be anointed as the king who claims to have a genealogy of being connected to King David and King Solomon. So, having been circumcised by a Jewish rabbi and having that covenant in the flesh that the Jews see as something significant in their eyes, they are not looking for a divine being to be the Messiah. They are not looking for a miraculous healer to be the Messiah. They're looking for a political figure that does things in the world, that makes the world a better place, and many other things, brings the tribes back that were the 10 tribes of Israel. They say they were lost, but they really weren't lost, because Jesus actually sent the disciples to the places where these lost tribes were to gather them and tell them the good news of the gospel message, to be saved through the power of God's Spirit, through the death, burial, and resurrection of the Messiah as the second perfect Adam. So he was drawing them all back. And so the ancient monarchy is going to be reconstituted and revived when this last earthly king is anointed and sits upon that throne chair. And ironically, it's called Jacob's pillow stone that's on the coronation chair in the special slot that the king sits over, and Queen Elizabeth sat over it as well. Now, it's interesting that it's called the time of Jacob's trouble in the last 7 years of the tribulation period, and he's going to be coronated on Jacob's pillow stone. So that's very interesting. So I'm just trying to cover all the bases I talked about in my prior videos, so if you didn't even see any of those, you'll know some of what I talked about. So now, when King Charles III is coronated, now he's got this advisor that's the prime minister that is of the Hindu religion. So Rishi Sunak took his oath on the Bhagavad Gita, which is an episode recorded in the Mahabharata, a Sanskrit epic poem of ancient India. It is an influential religious text in Hinduism that takes the form of a dialogue between Prince Arjuna and Krishna, an avatar of the Hindu deity Vishnu. It was likely composed in the 1st or 2nd centuries CE. So let me just share a couple of things first. Rishi Sunak's religious identity under radar as Christian UK gets first Hindu Prime Minister. Rishi Sunak did not hold back from embracing his roots when he appointed Finance Minister of Britain and took an oath by placing his hands on the Bhagavad Gita. According to Sunak, even though he is currently a British citizen, he practices Hinduism. He says his ethnicity is Indian, both religiously and culturally. He earlier proclaimed his Hindu identity with pride. As Emphasis founder Narayana Murthy's son-in-law is all set, and he did become UK's Prime Minister today, Sunak's Hindu identity is now under radar. A Hindu Prime Minister is now responsible for advising King Charles on appointments to the Church of England. Britain is dead, said Colin Pruitt, operations associate at the American Conservative, who thinks Charles III should depose Parliament. It is an important step in Britain's development as a multicultural, multi-religious society because Sunak is the first Hindu Prime Minister of the UK. Sunak is a practicing Hindu despite the fact that he rarely discusses his religion in public. As Pet Media reports, Sunak always keeps an idol of Sri Ganesh on his table. He earlier made an appeal to give up eating beef, and he never has it. On Diwali, a festival of lights enjoyed by millions of Hindus, Sikhs, Jains worldwide, he was elected as the next Prime Minister of the UK. It honors fresh starts, the victory right over wrong, and the victory of light over darkness. With Coca-Cola as his preferred beverage, Sunak might be the first teetotal Prime Minister of the UK since David Lloyd George. On the occasion of Janmashtami in 2022, Sunak visited the Bhaktivedanta Manor Temple with his wife, Akshata, in advance of the popular Hindu festival celebrating Lord Krishna's birthday. British magazine Galdem wrote on Twitter, Rishi Sunak's undemocratic election as Prime Minister is not a win for diversity, and we're not celebrating it as one. One user replied that idolatry would increase in Britain. Okay, so you can see how King Charles III, who said he would embrace all faiths, and now he's got this Prime Minister advisor that's of the Hindu belief, that believes in multiple gods that are not gods. He's got idols that he keeps with him, that he worships. And this sets the pace for the great apostasy that's coming. And that pace is set when King Charles III does not solely be defender of the gospel of Jesus Christ, but brings in all of these other gods under this advisor. And he's already met with him, and they looked pretty chummy, as though all of this was planned out before it even came to pass. So there's pictures of them walking along and having meetings and discussing things. Back then, he's very much into the finance sector and has a background in money, finance, and all of that. And how is that going to play a role in the mark of the beast, where you can't buy or sell unless you have the king's mark and the number of his name and all of this climate change thing where you cannot eat beef. Now, the man is a Hindu. He does not eat beef, and he's going to expect that from you too, as they bring in their climate change agenda, the 666 of carbon, and your carbon footprint, which is going to be taxed. Some of the things that Christians should know about Hinduism is that their goal of Hinduism is to achieve salvation, at which point an individual's soul stops reincarnating once salvation is reached. The saved soul becomes part of what Hindus believe is the one absolute soul, Brahman, that binds all other souls. There are many deities and paths to salvation in Hinduism. The supreme Hindu god is Brahman, who is believed to be the ultimate force existing in all things. However, most Hindus worship additional divine beings who take on separate forms, but who are each part of Brahman's singular universal force. And this is what they believe, and this is an unholy trinity, which ironically is what the Christians say is going to happen with the Antichrist and the beast system. Is going to be an unholy trinity. And what is that? Some of the most prominent deities representing Brahman include Brahma, which they say is the god who created the universe and all things, Vishnu, the god who preserves the universe, and Shiva, which we know is the god who destroys the universe to prepare for its renewal. And we know also that Obama was depicted as Shiva on a magazine cover that had the 6 arms. There were 6 items in his hands, and it represented the 666, let's put it that way, because he's helping to prepare the way for the Antichrist system. And the ultimate spiritual goal of Hinduism is to achieve salvation, which ends the cycle of a death and rebirths. And this part is going to get into what just astounds me. Hindus revere all animal life and consider the cow, in particular, to be a sacred animal. Now, most people know this, but Hinduism reveres animal life generally, and many Hindus are vegetarian. Traditionally, Hindus have considered the cow, in particular, to be a sacred animal. The cow is not seen as a god, nor is it worshipped as such. Rather, certain Hindu scriptures identify the cow as the mother of all civilization, providing milk to sustain humanity. As such, Hindus view the cow as a sacred symbol of life to be protected and esteemed, never consumed. Cows are allowed to roam free in cities and villages alike in heavily Hindu countries. In fact, so great is the protection of cows in predominantly Hindu India, for example, that a person can be imprisoned for harming or killing the animal. And of course, they're under the caste system, which has different rankings of people according to what kind of jobs they have. If you're like low on the totem pole, you're in the lower caste, not worth much of anything. And that lowest caste, they're called untouchables. So ironically, on the very day that King Charles III appoints the new Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, as the Prime Minister of the UK, guess what happened today also? A partial solar eclipse, October 25th, 2022, and the deep partial solar eclipse of October 25th, 2022 was visible from most of Europe, northern Africa, where, by the way, his ancestors came from that area. They were Indian, but they lived in part of Africa, the Middle East, and western parts of Asia. So the partial solar eclipse swept across Europe, West Asia, Northeast Africa, and the Middle East on the very day that Rishi Sunak took the prime ministership. And because it was only a partial solar eclipse, it made it look like a crescent. Now, remember I told you in Babylon that the cow was worshipped there, but it had a mark on the forehead that was a crescent moon. And this was also visible on some of the Roman army, they had standards that the army marched in with, and they had the crescent moon on it. And this goes way back before Muhammad took it as a thing of worship. It actually goes way, way back to probably the Garden of Eden when Adam and Eve sinned against God, when they were tempted by Satan. So let's talk about the cow, the sanctity of the cow. And we know about the woman that rides the beast. The beast is a king, but it also represents the golden calf that the Israelites put up in the wilderness when they played the harlot against God. And then again, when they were exiled to Babylon by God because they were playing the harlot against God again. So in Hinduism, the sanctity of the cow, the belief that the cow is representative of divine and natural beneficence and should therefore be protected and venerated. The cow has also been associated with various deities, notably Shiva, whose steed is Nandi, a bull. Indra, close associated with Kamanhenu, the wish-granting cow, and Krishna, a cowherd in his youth, and goddess in general because of the material attributes of many of them. The degree of veneration afforded the cow is indicated by the use in rites of healing, purification, and penance of the Panchagavya, the 5 products of the cow: milk, curd, butter, urine, and dung. In addition, because her products supplied nourishment, the cow was associated with motherhood and Mother Earth. The cow was also identified early on with the Brahmin or priestly class, and killing the cow was sometimes equated by Brahmins with the heinous crime of killing a Brahmin. In the middle of the first millennium, cow killing was made a capital offense by Gupta kings, and legislation against cow killing persisted into the 20th century in many princely states where the monarch was Hindu. In the late 19th century, especially in northern India, a movement to protect cows arose that strove to unify Hindus and distinguish them from Muslims by demanding that the government ban cow slaughter. This intertwining of political and religious purpose led periodically to anti-Muslim riots and eventually played a role in the partition of the Indian subcontinent in 1947. Okay, so it mentions the cow with healing and purification. So what do we have going on with Israel? With the red heifers, the female cows that they're bringing over to use as purification with their ashes of the red heifer to purify the people so that they can participate in the third temple service for the Lord. Do you think there's going to be some acceptance of the cow in this situation? Because you've got the Hindu prime minister, you've got King Charles III that embraces whatever he's going to say, and you've got the mark of the beast, and the beast is a beast of burden, which is a cow, which is like the golden calf. And all of this is going to come together. But what really got me today was when I told you before about that the Lord had revealed that the first beast, which a beast is a king, and the woman that rides the beast, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots, who says, I sit a queen and am no widow. When I realized that that was in the book of Lamentations, that Israel, her monarchy, had formerly said, or they formerly were a queen, but now they sat as a widow because God brought the sword against them, and now their deadly wound was healed, so the monarchy is going to be healed. And then after the 7th-year time of Jacob's trouble, Jesus descends and takes the throne of David forever. On May 11th, 2022, Charles met Rishi's future king, who donned a pinstripe suit as he joined the Chancellor for the Prince's Trust charity event in South London. So the two of them got together and they met up and they discussed things way before the Queen died. Now I just want to show you the Egyptian bull Apis, the golden calf. Sometimes it has the disc between the horns and the serpent on the crown of the head. This one shows the cow with a mark on the forehead. As the sheep is to Christianity, the cow is to Hinduism. Lord Krishna was a cowherd, and the bull is depicted as the vehicle of Lord Shiva. Today, the cow has almost become a symbol of Hinduism. I'm just telling bits and pieces that you need to know here, that vehicles of the Hindu gods, the Vahanas is what they're called. Each Hindu deity has a particular animal vehicle or Vahana on which it travels. The Sanskrit word translates literally as that which carries or that which pulls. These vehicles, which are either animals or birds, represent the various spiritual and psychological forces that carry each deity and represent it. So important are the Vahanas that deities are seldom depicted without their corresponding creatures. The Vahanas may wear a saddle upon which the deity rides, or they may pull a chariot driven by the deity. So it's kind of interesting that there's a rider on a white horse that is going to dominate the world. Now you have to know this, I don't want to get off that subject, but the new UK Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, married into almost $1 billion in tech money, who has a net worth that rivals King Charles and takes over a country struggling to afford heating. The Prime Minister's family wealth clocks in at an estimated $825 million, making him one of the richest people in Britain. Sunak has drawn intense criticism for tax and visa scandals in the past. Now it's interesting that they're going to put a carbon tax on the world, and I believe that this is why Joe Biden hired 87,000 IRS agents that are armed to try to enforce the carbon footprint tax. It's sad to know that the UK now has more food banks than McDonald's, and many people are making the choice between eating and heating their homes. As insiders, Bethany Dawson reported, The Guardian reported in August, that almost a quarter of the country is planning not to turn on the heating this winter. That's just completely absurd to have to do that. On Monday, October 24th, Sunak secured the backing of his Conservative Party to become its leader, thereby becoming the UK's presumptive Prime Minister, and now is Prime Minister. As a former Chancellor of the Exchequer, Sunak's grasp of fiscal policy may be welcomed by a country faced with immense financial difficulties. However, Sunak also faces fierce criticism for his family's extraordinary wealth. With a net worth that rivals that of King Charles III, many fear that Sunak will not be able to understand the daily financial struggles the British public faces, especially as Britain faces the prospect of a painful recession. And incredibly, one of the things that he said today on the news at 10 Downing Street was that things were going to be very difficult in the future. So how does all of this come together with the fact that he does not believe in killing cows or eating beef? And this coincides exactly with the climate change agenda of people not eating beef in particular, meat, but making the prices skyrocket so people cannot afford the beef. And of course, King Charles III is limiting the amount of meat that he eats per week. So obviously they're going to do this as part of the climate change agenda. So him being a Hindu who does not believe in anything but the sacredness of the cow, can you see how that's going to play a part of them not allowing people to eat beef in the future, and that any farmer that raises cows, they won't want them to slaughter the cows, but they won't be able to eat them because this is part of the do not eat meat agenda. And of course, it said in the scriptures that I shared with you that in the last days they will be telling people not to eat meat. So according to God, we are allowed to eat the meat that he provided, and all of it is sanctified by prayer. So you know that the Jews have brought in the red heifers, the cows. It's a female cow, and they're going to use this for purification. So if King Charles III is the anointed one, which he will be when he's coronated, and that will be official, he'll be the anointed one. And to the Jews, that means Messiah. And if he's from the genealogical line of King David and Solomon, then they will see that as the restoration of the monarchy, and they will accept him as a political king. So what I was saying about realizing that the first beast in Revelation 13 is Jerusalem, and the scarlet harlot who rides the beast was the sons and daughters of Zion, the monarchy of Israel that had the deadly wound by the sword and yet is going to be restored. And Israel is going to restore that monarchy with an anointed king that's a political figure that does things that try to help the world, which of course is what they think they're doing with climate change and affecting every single thing, the heating, the gas. It's affecting our food. It's affecting our water. I mean, there's nothing these people haven't tried to touch that's actually destroying everything. And God says he will destroy those who destroy the earth. But the thing that got me when I realized that, okay, the second beast, I believe, is this king, King Charles III, according to everything that I've been telling you that is according to Scripture, the restoration of the monarchy. And this second beast, he gains all the authority of the first beast, because if he claims to be the descendant of King David and Solomon, then he will have the authority of that first monarchy of Judah and Israel that'll be restored. And he will take that on as part of his authority when he's coronated. So I realized that the second beast, ironically, and this blows me away, when it talks about the second beast in Revelation 13, it says, "Then I saw a second beast coming up out of the earth." Okay? I previously told you that it had two horns like a lamb, and it spoke like a dragon. So the dragon of Wales, his investiture was upon the throne chair that had the dragon of Wales on it. Plus, he's going to be anointed with the ambergris, which is in the holy anointing oil, which is the whale vomit that the Chinese call dragon spittle. But just listen to this. So you've got the two horns like a lamb. So it's got the Protestant church that is, he's defender of the Protestant church. But prior to that, they also were manipulated by the Catholic Church. So that's two horns like a lamb, because the Catholic Church and the Protestant Church, they both believe in Jesus, who is the Lamb. So he was defender of the faith of the Protestant Church, but also in ancient times, the Roman Catholic Church were part of the monarchy's control. I mean, they pretty much dictated what went on with the monarchs of England. But what I wanted to show you here, which is extraordinary, that I'm adding, is the part where it said, "Then I saw a second beast coming out of the earth." So you've got to hear what I'm about to say. The second beast coming out of the earth. Remember, a beast is a king and his kingdom. A beast is a cow, a beast of burden, a bull. This is like the golden calf, and the harlot sits on many waters because she's tainted everybody with the Babylonian ways as she was dispersed in all the nations. So now all of this is going to come together up on the Temple Mount in the third temple with all of these pagan gods and deities that they're going to allow up there. But you have to hear this, because this just shocked me so much today when I realized it. When it said, "I saw the second beast coming up out of the earth." Listen to this. "As opposed to the West, where the cow is widely considered as nothing better than walking hamburgers, in India, the cow is believed to be a symbol of the earth." Whew. I saw the second beast coming up out of the earth. Wow. So that puts the New World Order, the one world religion, the one world government, the carbon footprint, the 666 that's encoded on the King's royal cipher as his mark. And now they have the bindi mark on the forehead in Hinduism. And this, not only is the cow a beast, and the king is a beast with his kingdom, but this cow is said to basically, it's believed to be a symbol of the earth. So this beast is coming up out of the earth, right there from the UK, with the king that's going to be coronated, this spring. Not only is the royal cipher part of the mark, but this beast of the sacred cow could come into play. And not only that, but if you study mythology, and I don't like these topics and stuff, but one day God just showed me all of this information that the Apis bull that they worshipped as the golden calf, that is connected to the cow that has the harlot riding the beast, but also it's connected to Zeus, who disguised himself as a cow or as a bull, and he took Europa on his back. She was like the scarlet harlot riding the beast, and they have the statues of this in Strasbourg, France, and other places in Europe. That's Europa riding Zeus. He's disguised as a bull. So what was the abomination of desolation in the temple? None other than Zeus. And Zeus was disguised as a bull. So this cow, this bovine that they are calling sacred, that's going to come together with, the red heifers are the sacred cow of purification. And the Hindus believe that the cow is sacred. It all comes together. And this is the beast that's symbolized by the earth. And this is the beast that's coming up out of the earth. Oh my gosh. I just flipped out when I read that line. It just all clicked. And I'm like, I have got to get this together in a video somehow. I'm talking off the top of my head with notes and, screenshots that I've taken of bits of information, and I'm trying to put it all together so that you can see the whole cohesive picture. So you've got all of this developing so fast. And isn't it weird how Liz Truss was appointed by the Queen, and 2 days later the Queen died? And then suddenly Liz Truss is completely out of the picture, and this guy pops up that's a Hindu, and he's embracing all of these gods and this unholy trinity and the destroyer, and most of all the sacred cow, which just has so much history of what God considered the abomination of desolation. Now, when they put up an image in the third temple, is that going to be the sacred cow? Is it going to be what was Apis in Egypt, who's related to Zeus, who disguised himself as a bull, and the harlot riding the beast, and that's the beast of burden, and that's going with the royal cipher of the king that is part of the mark? So you need to be aware of all of this coming together like this. I mean, it's stunning. And I just think that only God could put together all of the pieces like this before our eyes. And I'm just trying to share it with the world. And people should not take this mark. Not on the hand or in the hand or on the forehead or in the forehead. Because it's going to be a great apostasy to turn away from the gospel and defender of the faith, to embrace all the world's religions and bring them there to Jerusalem as the 70 nations to make the Sanhedrin the world court. And then, of course, they don't accept Jesus and don't want you to accept Jesus. They'll see that as idolatry. And they'll see this earthly anointed king as the restored monarchy. So you got the two beasts in Revelation. That's the old monarchy being revived, coming back up and rising again, that had the deadly sword wound and was healed. And then you've got this new monarch that's going to take the throne and incorporate the ancient monarchy into it, so he'll have the authority and power of the ancient monarchy. And that'll be the second beast being the whole global, I guess you could say, Babylonian tainted nations and the evil that they're doing and orchestrating. So you've got Israel playing the harlot, mystery Babylon the Great, as I laid out in one of my videos, scripture by scripture, showing you how stunned I was when the Lord revealed that to me. I couldn't even keep writing. I was so freaked out about it. And all of this, you have to remember, is the prophet Daniel was the prince of Judah with some of the other royalty that were taken to Babylon in exile for the 70 years. So they've got the last 7 years to fulfill. And what's that going to do? Daniel the prince, and he had just seen the king, Zedekiah. He saw all of these people were slaughtered, Zedekiah's sons. That was the end of the monarchy of the last king of Judah, and of course Israel. And So you can see what Daniel was praying for: the restoration of God's holy mountain, the restoration of God's temple, and that God's divine presence would return there. So what do you have happening in the time of Jacob's trouble? You've got this king, this monarchy revived, who's going to claim to be of the tribe of Judah, a descendant of David and Solomon. And that is the restoration of the monarchy. Then you've got the resurrection of the temple being built on Holy Mount Moriah. And then what do you have but the return of the divine presence of God when Jesus comes down to reign and destroys and puts an end to all the kingdoms of this world that become his. Boom, there it is. Wow. What a picture. And I hope you see that it all is coming together. So exactly what Daniel had prayed for is going to come to pass in the last 7 years that he prophesied about for his people Israel. And of course, they've already been sacrificing the lambs, but the Antichrist is going to stop the sacrifice and oblation. So it makes sense to me, if they considered the animals all sacred and don't want them slaughtered, that could be why that happens. They put an end to the offering. In Israel and Judaism, they don't call it a sacrifice. They call it an offering to God. And so this is exactly how this is going to come about. Because if he stops the sacrifice and oblation, the offering and oblation, it'll be something having to do with considering all these animals sacred that they believe are gods, or something similar to that. And let me just tell you that the Nandi bull, a vehicle of the gods, is considered the symbol of respect for all male cattle. The Nandi bull holy site at Madurai and the Shiva temple at Mahabalipuram are the most venerated bovine shrines. Even now, Hindus are allowed to enter the 16th century bull temple in Bangalore. The Vishwanath temple of Jhansi, believed to have been built in 1002, also has a large statue of the Nandi bull. Is this what they are going to put in the third temple as what we are supposed to see is the abomination of desolation? Some abomination from the past, which was actually the Zeus disguised as a bull. Is that what's going to make the third temple desolate and defile it? And then the Jews are going to realize it and they're going to get the heck out of there. So what happened when then Prince Charles did the opening of the Commonwealth Games that had the bull? And one report said major awkwardness after Moses was not invited to the Commonwealth Games. And of course, at the Commonwealth Games, the people were down below, like they were worshiping this bull, the bull vine, the golden calf, the symbol of Zeus, the symbol of Apis, and what the Hindus believe is the sacred cow. So this one has the horns, so it's a bull. But it all comes together. And because it's the beast, the second beast that comes up out of the earth, and the cow is considered the symbol of the earth, to me, that is stunning to realize that this is what it's talking about in the book of Revelation. The second beast that comes up out of the earth includes this. And this is going to play a big role in the future, and probably part of the King's Royal Cipher somehow, and the climate change and everything I've said. So I ask you, why did they have that at the Commonwealth Games? Was that just by chance? And since King Charles III already met with Rishi Sunak at his Princess Charitable Trust, you know, it seems to me like it's all one big global setup for the rise, for the one who's going to be the king, the beast, the second beast of Revelation, who takes the authority of the first beast, which is Jerusalem and the ancient monarchy. And it becomes his until the divine presence of God, Yeshua, comes down from heaven to rule and reign as the eternal king, descended from King David, from the tribe of Judah. And we see that he's going to restore all of the 10 tribes of Israel, along with the 2 tribes that were part of Judah, with Benjamin being part of that. So all of this is incredible. What do you think about this? I really had the chills when I realized that about the beast from the earth. Mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. I just wonder what you think about all of this. It's incredible.